I was going to speak last night, and had so much content that I just felt like it was going to be just too much. And so I struggled, honestly, with what I was going to say to you for weeks now. In fact, I had a slide presentation together the first of this week, and I thought, okay, that's it. And then I thought, that's not really it. And so then I went another direction and another direction. And if you ever work on a project where you feel like you're just grinding on it and it's just not going anywhere. So I prayed about it, and I thought, I'm just going to kind of see what happens. And that was really my mode. I had a couple of ideas yesterday. In fact, I talked to John Maxwell. We had lunch on Wednesday, and he said, well, here's what I think you ought to do. You know, John's not always right, but he's never lacking an opinion. And so he told me exactly what I should do. And John, if you're listening to this tape, I'm not going in that direction. I'm sorry. But I woke up this morning at 5 o'clock, and I thought, I know what I'm supposed to do. And we'll see. But I really felt compelled to just share with you my story and why I'm excited about Christian retail, because I really am. And more than anything for today, I want you to leave encouraged. It's tough out there. You know that. I know that. We've had a tough year ourselves. You know, we thankfully saw some growth, but not as much as we had hoped. And for months, every time the discussion of the recession came up, we voted no. You know, we weren't going to participate. And I'm still not voting yes, but I realize that it's on the ballot. And the waters are choppy. And for me, at least, getting reconnected with why I'm here is very helpful. My wife has been teaching this study to the women in our church on prayer. And she said, you know, it's so easy to worry about the future, to regret the past, and not be in the present moment. And she has this thing that she says that's been very helpful to me, and she says, look at your feet. I go, okay. And she says, now say this, I am here, God is with me. It's been hugely helpful to me, really simple. You know, the future is going to take care of itself, and the past you can't do anything about. What you've got is this moment, and are we being faithful in this moment with what God has given us? I didn't grow up in a Christian home. In fact, by the time I got to high school, I was pretty much an agnostic. I just didn't know. I knew some Christian kids, but I really didn't know the gospel. I'd never heard the gospel before. But when I was about 16, I found religion. I became an atheist. It is a faith perspective. I mean, agnosticism I kind of get, but to be an atheist takes some faith. And so that was my first faith experience, becoming an atheist. And I was kind of proud of it, and I loved to tweak the noses of the Christians in my high school. So I was kind of a proud atheist. And went to college as a music major, and wanted to play in a rock band. And I got my chance in the fall of my freshman year. Some guys came to me and they said, we want you to play in a rock band with us, but you're going to have to drop out of college and move with us to Denton, Texas, where we're going to set up shop in a farmhouse. And from there, baby, we're going to be famous. So with fear and trepidation, I met with my dad. And I said, Dad, I've got this idea. And I'm just kind of maybe thinking about dropping out of college and moving to Denton, Texas, and joining a rock band. And then I kind of braced myself. And my dad says, son, I think that's a fantastic idea. Are you kidding? He said, no. He said, think of it this way. You're young. You got your whole life in front of you. You're not married. What would be a better possible time to do this than now? And I said, you're serious? And he said, absolutely. And if it doesn't work out, he said, I'll pay your bus ticket home. He said, but go do it with gusto and with my blessing. It lasted 6 weeks. I think my dad had great wisdom in that moment. But I came back, and this was really important for a young person. I knew one thing I didn't want to do. And, you know, life is a lot of figuring out what you don't want to do so you can get to what you do want to do. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. It was too late to get back into school that spring. So this became my first book experience. I started selling encyclopedias door to door. And the fascinating thing about it was my boss was a Christian, and nobody else in the company, so far as I could tell, was. And it seemed like for weeks, almost every day when I would knock on a door, they would say to me things like, "We're not really interested in encyclopedias, but come in, we'd like to talk to you." And they would share the gospel with me. I can't tell you how many times in West Texas I heard the gospel at the kitchen tables of ordinary Americans who loved me enough to share it with me. But I'm a little slow. So it kind of didn't click initially. I mean, first of all, it was totally foreign to me. I'd never heard anything like this in my life. So I started talking to my boss as we were driving back to Dallas, Texas late one night, the one that was the Christian. And I said, "I don't really get this whole Christian thing." I said, what is this really about? And he said, "Well, I've got just the book for you." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, it's called the Living Bible, which was a conundrum. I mean, do you have to water it? Do you have to feed it? I mean, what is it? And he said, "No, when we get back to my house in Dallas, I'll give it to you." And he gave me a copy of The Way. Do you remember that? It was about 1974. And he said, "My advice to you," this is really bad advice, but he said, "My advice to you is start in the book of Revelation." I said, "Okay, that sounds great." So we got to his house, and he and his wife went to bed, and I sat down in the living room, turned a light on, sat down, and started in the book of Revelation. And I felt like I had fallen into a giant story that was totally captivating to me. And I didn't really understand a lot of what was going on, except that I knew it was really, really important. And I was a little scared but excited. And I got to chapter 20 on the great white throne judgment. And I began to shake. Because all those times that people had shared with me the gospel, it suddenly clicked into focus. And I understood. And I understood that I was in trouble. That I did not have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And all these people that had shared the gospel with me but couldn't lead me to Christ had made it clear that I needed to pray and invite Christ into my life. So I did it that very night in Dallas, Texas. And that was about February of 1974. I don't remember the exact day.